change it. There was a movie that came out in 1975 that completely changed the way hundreds of millions of people lived their everyday lives. One little movie. Anyone know what it was? I'll give you 2 notes. Jaws. If you didn't know, Jaws is about a 30-foot great white that's randomly attacking people at Amity Island. Okay, how many 30-foot great whites have ever been filmed? 0. It's not real, guys. It's not freaking Shark Week. It's fake. It's not real. There aren't rogue great whites killing kids. But what did that movie put in people's brains?
Fear.
Fear. Hundreds of millions of people stopped going in the water in Indiana. It's not real. It's the perception. Does anyone know how long that perception, the negative perceptions of sharks, has persisted? Still today. Worldwide, how many people get killed by sharks? Anyone know? Close. It's 8, roughly. Does anyone know how many sharks we kill?
Thousands.
Try 100 million. We wipe out 10% of the world shark population every year. Who should be afraid of whom? Perception's reality. So if you walk, talk, and sound like a traditional salesperson, what do you think people think you are? So that's what we have to change. So right now what we do is we teach people how to sell the right way. Again, individuals, companies, people all over the world. And what's great about what we're building is a different movement, right? Where, you know, you can be a normal dude and nice and be successful in sales. Do y'all know that? You don't have to be Mr. 10X. Sorry, you shouldn't do that. I'm sorry, I really have to stop that. We're going to talk today about a couple things. One is why salespeople miss quota. 2 is detachment. 3 is what's in your sales DNA. And 4 is why don't people change? And I appreciate the input, the feedback. And by the way, everybody, I'm just a guy with a clicker. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just my thoughts. So we were talking with Steve earlier. Steve goes, oh, did you come up to me just so I wouldn't, and introduce yourself so I won't heckle you? I go, no, but that's a pretty good idea. A guy in Baltimore last week heckled me, like the whole time. You really believe that? I go, no, I just teach it for 20 years. I don't believe it. Everything I said, this guy disagreed with. Why don't you take a guess who his sales idol is? I won't say it. I won't say it. Do I have your permission to be blunt?
Yes, please.
So I took the jacket off. I might roll up the sleeves because you're here to learn something, not just to hear me speak. So I may be a little blunt, but I'm from Boston, and that's just the way it is, and it's too bad because I have the mic anyway. So why do salespeople miss quota? Anybody have any ideas?
The quota itself is not based on the ground, it's based on an accounting principle.
Perfect. Yeah, what he said, everybody, was the quota's bullshit. Basically. Sorry, that's what he said.
I tried to be nice.
I can read into him.
Thank you very much.
He's from New York, I could hear it, right? I'll translate New York to, so. What's another reason people miss quota? It's another reason. 100%. It's someone else's quota. How well do you do when you try to accomplish other people's goals? But there's lots of reasons. Does anyone know this number? What percentage of salespeople miss quota? Anyone know this number? We go 80, 90. It's not 99. We don't be out of a job. 67. Okay? 2/3. Is this good number, by the way? This is not good. Okay. How long has this number been this number? Oh, you know, forever. So what am I explaining when I say, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, what is that called? And companies do it incessantly all the time. What you're doing isn't working. If it were working, people would be hitting quotas, but they're not. And I don't want any dumbass answers here, all right? I always get one in the crowd. Ooh, okay. What's the goal when you go fishing? You said it, dear. Catch fish. Everybody agree with that? That seems like a normal answer. Does anyone know anybody in their life that is always worried about things that are completely and utterly out of their control?
Your parents.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. Who knows somebody like that? How do they go through life? What are their feelings and emotions every day? Shout them out. Stress. Good. What else? Inadequate. Worried. All these things. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? What's the one thing that is absolutely and utterly out of your control when you go fishing? Catching fish. Every fisherman's goal is something they can't control. What can you control when you go fishing? Equipment, bait, what else? Where you go, water temperature, water depth, retrieval speed, lure size, fly depth, water column, a number of beers in the cooler. All of those things you can control, but you can't control whether or not the fish what? So what can you control when you fish? What can you control, guys? The amount of times you put the bait where? In front of the fish. Whether or not the fish bites, that ain't up to you. It's up to somebody else, but it ain't you. So, are there fishermen, women, captains, 30 years in the business that have gone out for a day and not caught anything? Does that mean they're the worst captain and they suck and they're terrible? Is that what that means? No. What does it mean? Just weren't biting. What are salespeople told when they don't sell something? You failed. You suck. What should they be told? Great job. Keep doing it. Awesome. How many times are you casting the appropriate lure and putting it in front of that fish? And if you do it enough times, what will happen? Eventually what? But that's what salespeople are told. You need the right lure, the right water depth, the right time, and you need to do it a lot. It's both. Who's ever seen Charles Barkley swing a golf club? Someone explain it. Charles Barkley has been playing golf for 25 years. He sucks more today than he ever did. He's probably swung a club 3 million times, 2 million times. He's still god-awful. Why? What hasn't he fixed? His swing. You can't just do the wrong thing 2 million times and expect to get good at it. That's why sales is not a numbers game. Sales is a skills game. So one of the most clutch hitters in the history of baseball, I could have put Jeter, even though I'm not a Yankees fan, but I'm still from Earth. I could have put Jeter or Big Papi. What happens, everybody? You don't need to know anything about baseball. If you go up and try your hardest to hit a home run, what happens? Strike out. Of course I had to put the Yankees striking out. It's Ibanez. Right. So, all right. You don't need to know about baseball for this, but feel free to answer. There are no wrong answers, okay? What is the goal when you go up to the plate? Shout them out.
Get on base.
Get on base, good answer. What's the goal, baseball fans? hit the ball, hit a home run. Anything else? Advance the runner. Not strike out. Remember I told you guys there are no wrong answers. Those are all wrong. Here's the goal, everybody. The goal is to have a quality what? At bat. Now, I will ask you, what is a quality at bat? It could be what? Could be a hit. Any hit. What else? Walk, bunt. Anything else? Who said it? Was that you one? Say that out loud, sir. Everybody hear that? If you don't know about baseball, if you're at the plate and you make the pitcher throw 16 pitches, you just tired that pitcher out, you benefited your team. Everybody with me? Where does that show up in the box score? Oh, funny, nowhere. 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, Red Sox playing, they had a guy lead off with a double. Next guy at the plate. Does anyone know what his job is to do, baseball fans? Advance the runner. Give himself up, just hit a ground ball, make an out, get the guy to third. He did that. When he went back to the dugout, they high-fived him like he hit a grand slam. Why? What did they understand? Did his job. Next guy comes up, Bogarts hits a sac fly, Sox take the lead. The guy that moved the runner over, do you know what that shows up in the box score? 0 for 1. Who was the most important person in that game? That guy. But in sales, that guy's told, you suck. You didn't make an appointment. This is what has to change. We have to celebrate activities that are moving the runner over, advancing the conversation. So we need to be able to judge salespeople on the amount of quality at bats, not the amount of hits. Any idiot can get a hit. If somebody goes 0 for 4 in a game and they tear the cover off the ball and the defense makes 4 diving catches, did he have a bad day at the plate? Nope. Had an amazing day. What can't he control, everybody? What can't? Who catches it? He did his job. But in the box score, it shows up 0 for 4. And in sales, that manager goes, dude, you had a terrible game. You didn't make any sales. You didn't make any appointments. How's that for confidence builder? And we wonder why people don't make quota. It's what people do every day. Are they having quality at-bats? And what is an at-bat, everybody, for a salesperson? What's an at-bat? Conversation, good. Opportunity. What else? Communication, right? Make a contact. Go to a networking event. When salespeople get celebrated for the activity they do, they perform. When they get lauded for the result they don't achieve, it retards their growth. You have to be celebrating people for their daily activities. You know, we talk about, Patrick was saying in the back, KPIs. I didn't want to say this because we were talking about this. It's not about KPIs, guys, sorry. It's about DPIs. Daily performance indicators, daily. If I want to lose 30 pounds, I don't try to lose 30 pounds. I do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups a day. If I do that every day, will I lose weight? That's what it's about. Everyone likes to have who's ever done a, like a vision board or any of that stuff? You guys all do that stuff? You can do it, but if you don't do the activity, it's not going to happen. You know, one of my clients, we were talking about Peloton yesterday. You know, people buy these Pelotons, you know, for $4,000 or whatever, and they go, oh, man, haven't lost weight yet. You know, you got to get on it, right? Oh, you don't just buy it? Do you guys know right now there are probably $3-4 million Peloton / clothes racks right now. Everyone wants like the instant you gotta do the work. It's not the gym's fault. You gotta do the work, but if you track daily activities, you have success. So it's funny, I pulled this right off ESPN. Do you remember this? So the Yankees were 9-14 at the time, which gave me such joy. So they were struggling. And so Aaron Blanking Boone told his hitters, you have to guard against being obsessed with chasing a result. He told this to his team. What were the Yankees chasing when they were up at the plate? Hits. When you chase things, what do?
Run away.
If you're worried about hitting, you ain't going to hit. If you're worried about selling, you ain't going to sell. So when he told this to his team, they went on like a 7-game winning streak. Because what did they stop thinking about? Hitting the ball. They started hitting the cover off the ball. So we talked about this before. What were those feelings? Can you all shout them out? Of people who worry about things they can't control. What are the feelings and emotions? Stress, fear, anxiety, all of those types of things. Does anyone have young kids in here? I want you to remember those emotions. Okay, remember those emotions. Does anyone have young children in here? Okay, several of you. What are they attached to? Good. Mom and dad. What else? Grandparents. What other things are kids attached to? Toys, iPads, all those types of things. What happens if you try to take your kid's favorite toy away? Tantrum, laughter, it's bad. Detachment is not natural. We grow up attached to things. What were we attached to in the womb? Like, attachment is natural. Detachment is not. Who's seen this show? People look at this show and they go, oh, these people are pigs. They're so filthy. This is not an issue physically with messiness. Does anybody know what type of issue this is? Mental. Take a wild guess what it has to do with. Letting go. What happens if you try to take grandma's mug from 1974 off the counter? What does she do? Flips out. If anybody's ever seen this show, the daughter or son usually goes over to the mom or dad. Who do they bring with them? Correct. Who do they not bring? Junk removal. You have to fix the mental challenge first. Once they help people overcome this feeling of I can't let go, what happens to these homes after they work that out with the person? Yeah, what do they look like a month later? Completely different person. How do they feel, by the way, a month later with a beautifully clean home? Proud. Good one. Let me ask this. Has anybody ever had trouble letting something go in their business or their life? When you finally let it go, what were those feelings? Shout them out. Relief. Freedom. Relaxed. Take a wild guess, everybody. What happens when salespeople let go of this attachment to outcomes? Do you want to have your salespeople living their days full of anxiety, fear? Or do you want to have them feeling freedom, joy, happiness, enjoyment? That is what happens when salespeople let go of this whole quota bullshit. Who do you want? Anyone know this guy? Who is this guy? If somebody gets this, you win nothing. But it'd be pretty impressive if you got it. Anybody know who this is? No, that'd be a good one. Who's heard of the hierarchy of needs? That's Maslow. But one thing that he taught me that I think is more powerful than that is this. The only way to truly be happy is to be free from any outcomes. When you don't care whether or not somebody buys something, it's a different feeling. When you're always stressed out about selling people who come within 3 square feet of you, that's not good. Raise your hand in here if you've heard of commission breath before. Okay. If you haven't heard of commission breath, generally salespeople get it around the end of the quarter or the end of the month. Has anybody ever smelled it on someone that they were trying to sell? Okay, that's commission breath. Does anyone know anyone with bad breath? And don't look at them if they're at your table. Has anyone ever met anyone with bad breath? Seriously. Do they know they have bad breath? Nope. Nope. Why don't they know? Because nobody told them. They didn't have the balls to tell them because everyone needs to be nice. No. You tell people when there's a giant piece of broccoli in between their 2 front teeth. If you go through your whole life in sales with bad breath, is that good or bad for you? Bad. Really bad. Guess what happens if you go through your whole life in sales with commission breath? Worse. You know what's most people don't even know they have it. And the reason they don't know they have it is because their language, their actions, their words make them sound like a salesperson. Who's ever heard that if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. That's what happens. Salespeople don't even know they're doing it. Don't even know they're doing it. And this happens a lot to people, and I really hope none of you did this. You probably did it an hour ago. When salespeople follow up, which isn't even part of this, they say like stupid shit, like, just following up, Tom. Just checking in. If I'm with Steve in the car, we're driving up, there's a red light coming up, and I go, hey, I'm going to stop at this red light. Is that okay? Yeah. What would he think if I told him that? I'm a crazy person. You don't tell people you're following up. You just do. You don't tell people, I'm just checking in, Steve. You just do. When you say the verbiage that every other friggin' salesperson says, whom do they think you are? Whether or not you intend to. So we're going to dive into sales DNA, and sales DNA is very unique to everybody, just like your normal DNA. And I'll share with you where this data comes from. So one of the tools we use when we evaluate sales teams and candidates for sales hires is called the sales DNA test. And these guys out of Boston, of course, best city in the world, out of Boston, they've been doing this for 30 years. So our data pool, by the way, that I'm going to share with you is 2.1 million salespeople. You think that's a good pool? It's not 5 people. 30 years of data, 30,000 companies, 200 countries, 2.1 million salespeople. That's where this data comes from. So there are things that we don't realize in our heads that are preventing us from making sales. And we measure 21 of them when we do these with companies, individual salespeople. But this, in essence, is the MRI of a salesperson. And here's what happens, what I see with a lot of trainers, coaches, all that stuff. Someone comes into the doctor, limping in, can't even walk. And the doctor goes, here's 2 pills. And you go, aren't you going to ask me any questions or look at me or do an MRI? And the doctor goes, no, we just give those 2 pills to everyone. What would happen to that doctor?
The pharmaceutical company give them a bonus.
Maybe. And they're totally full of integrity and honesty. And
It's not a bonus, it's not.
yeah. What would you do if you limped into the doctor and they just said, Tony, just take these 2 pills, you'll be fine? What would you do? This is what most trainers do. They give the same arbitrary training, doesn't know what's wrong, what the issues are, what the challenges are. Everyone gets the same thing. It's not what we do. We've got to find out what's wrong. Is it a meniscus? Is it an ACL? Is it a fluid on the knee? What is it? So that's the point of doing this. So we measure everybody 21 different competencies that make up the success or failure of a salesperson. But we're going to talk about the 4 that seem to have the biggest impact. So here's the first one. 86% of salespeople need to be liked. Does this shock anyone in here? No. Why isn't this shock? Anybody been on social media? Does this show itself on social media? People's entire existences are based around the amount of likes they get on Instagram. I'm not even kidding. They literally pull their worth if they get more than 50 likes. Most people on social media, what you see ain't them. It ain't them. It's some falsity, ideal life where everything looks perfect, and it ain't them. Why is that? Because people care about what everyone else thinks. What's the number one fear in America? Anyone know what it is? What'd you say, Mike? Rejection, not in the top 5, but good guess. Failure, not in the top 5. What'd you say? Acceptance, not in the top 5. Loneliness, not in the top 5. Heights.
Weights.
Darkness. Spiders. Good, whoever said that. That's 3. 2 is death. And 1 is public speaking. Anyone ever heard Seinfeld's bit on this? People are more afraid of giving the eulogy than being in the friggin' casket. But it's true. 30 million Americans are afraid of public speaking. Does anybody know why that is? What drives it? Hint, hint, it's on the screen. People are so worried about what everyone else thinks. And the day you stop giving a shit about what strangers think about you is the day you'll start living your life. Amen. And that is what sales is about. If you're trying to be everybody's best buddy, you ain't gonna be successful in sales. Sorry. There's a big distinction between the top 10% of salespeople and everyone else. And the top 10% of salespeople would rather be what than liked. Anyone know this? Respected. Respected. And by the way, the top 10% of salespeople, they're all liked. They're likable. They're down to earth. They're friendly. They're not the used car salesman. They're not Mr. 10X. Okay, they're not in your face. They don't need to show their watch or their plane. Look how awesome I am. But they don't need to be liked. Does everybody see the difference? And there's a big distinction between being an aggressive salesperson and an assertive salesperson. Does anybody know the difference? What is the distinction? Because it's, say it again, John. Confidence, good, I'd agree with that. What's the distinction, y'all? Aggressive versus assertive. Integrity, good. Honesty, good. Intention, good. Empathy, good. Here's the difference, guys. An aggressive salesperson sells to benefit themselves. An assertive salesperson sells to benefit the client. Big difference. Huge difference. Next one. 84% of salespeople, 84% have difficulty controlling a conversation with a prospect. 84. Who are my dog owners in here? Okay. So you take your dog out for a walk. Let's say everyone in the neighborhood takes their dog out for a walk at the same time. What percentage of people are walking their dogs, and what percentage of people's dogs are walking them? Probably about right. Thanks, Ricky. I'd like to know that answer, but that's probably about right. Who should be walking whom? Yes. This is sales, guys. If you let the prospect take control from the beginning, you lose. You have to take control from the very first time you talk to that person. You have to walk them, not the other way around. Here's a third one. I just taught this, Travis, to a bunch of financial advisors, okay? Think 60% of salespeople are uncomfortable discussing money. 60%. That's 60% of dentists are uncomfortable performing cavity. Like what? This is real. But this is caused by several things. One is people's value of money. So some of the advisors probably know this. Roughly 54% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. 54. Does the average person think $1,000 is a lot of money? Yeah. If you're in sales and you think $1,000 is a lot of money, and you're selling something for $30,000, what happens when the prospect says, geez, Tony, that's a lot of money? What happens in their brain? They agree. Sometimes they even say it. You're right, Tony, it's a lot of money. I wouldn't buy it. But I mean, you should. But I wouldn't do it. If you are uncomfortable with money, you'll never be a top performer in sales. We have to overcome that. Second thing is our worth. So Brian Tracy taught me this. You will only ever earn within 10% of what you think you are worth. Everybody understand that? If you think you're worth 100 grand, that's about as much as you're going to earn. You have to change the thought first. The third part about this is discussions about other people's money. And another mentor taught me, Steve, stop spending other people's money. Are there people that buy $6,000 purses? Let them buy it. Who gives a shit? What do you care? Not your money. People do that. Oh, can you believe they bought that? Yeah, I can believe it. What do you care? Not your money. So don't spend other people's money. Don't think it's too expensive for them, because they ain't you and you ain't them. Another part of this is when we talk about budgeting, and my financial advisors, you will understand this, guys. Do Americans stick to their budget? What percentage do? Okay. Yeah, I was just, who's ever bought something they weren't intending on buying? Okay. Who's ever spent more money on something than they thought they were going to spend? What percentage of prospects are liars? All of them. Okay. So when you ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers. Okay. And you know what the stupidest question is in sales? Hey, Juan, what's your budget? Or something like this. If I ask John for his, hey, give me your social. What's your social? You're even laughing. It's not even you and you feel awkward about it. Why don't people like to share personal and private information?
Taken advantage of. They don't want to be exposed.
Don't want to be exposed. They feel taken advantage of. Guess what feelings you elicit when you ask a complete stranger who's a prospect, what's your budget, Steve? What are they thinking? None of your business. By the way, what answer you think he's even going to give me, even if I ask that? Not the real budget. So stop asking this question. It's insane. It does not help you. You know what helps you? Creating massive amounts of value. It has nothing to do with budgets. Do you guys know how many times companies say, well, Steve, we'll talk to you, but we don't have a training budget this year. Okay, so 6 quarters of negative sales growth, but no, there's no budget for that. Oh, right. But you do have a budget to keep employing your shittiest salesperson. Just want to make that clear. You've had them here for 6 years. You've paid them $450 grand. They're not worth their weight in whatever, but you have the budget for that. Oh, do I have that right? What do they say? Yeah. Respect, not liked. Last one. 45% of salespeople have difficulty recovering from rejection. What's a rejection for a salesperson? No. We hear it, right? A no. What's another rejection? Not now. Say again, Rick? Not now. Not now. Good. What's another one? Think about it. Think about it? Maybe, and I don't want y'all to think of objections. What's a rejection? Where in a daily process would a salesperson feel rejection? Let me ask it that way.
Slamming a door in their face.
Door in their face?
Hanging up.
Hang up.
Closed arms.
What'd you say?
Closed arms.
Closed arms, good. How about losing a big account? Is that a rejection? Yeah. What happens when most salespeople lose their biggest account? What do? Cry, bitch, go in the corner, I hate my life. In football, what's a rejection for a quarterback? Sack, interception, fumble. I want y'all to list for me the quarterbacks that have difficulty recovering from rejection. Anyone want to think of some? Let me ask it a different way. Who has no problem recovering from rejection? Name the quarterbacks. Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Manning, Favre, Montana. Where are all those guys? Hall of Fame. You know why? Because they can recover from rejection. If they throw a pick in the first quarter, who cares? I'm throwing 3 touchdowns in the second half. Most salespeople don't do that. They throw a pick in the first quarter and turn into Jameis Winston, right? So if half of salespeople have difficulty recovering from rejection, is that good or bad? Really, really bad. Now, that's 45%. I think the other 55% are freaking liars. Do we like rejection? Anybody? No one likes it, and if you do, you're weird. Nobody likes it, but it's the people who can recover from it. Can you get hit in the mouth? Can you get knocked down? Do you get back up and fight? It doesn't matter if you win, you just have to fight. But that's what salespeople need to be better at. This is the stuff that we teach, train, and coach on. It is not magic scripts. It's this stuff. And by the way, would anybody feel like they could admit to the group that they struggle with one or more of these? Anybody feel like they have one of these? What's the one you have, Mark?
Probably the recovery from rejection.
Recovery from rejection. Good. Anyone else want to share one? Tanisha? Controlling conversation. By the way, these two are connected. Anyone know why? You got it. So you don't say what you should say, and you let them take the lead. By the way, does anybody remember how many of these we measure? It's not 4. 21. How many do you think you have? This is why most people don't change. And one of the things I learned from David Goggins, who knows David Goggins? Get the hell out of here. 0 people? No way. David Goggins. No one in here knows David Goggins. Holy shit. Okay, you think I swear this guy makes me look like Mother Teresa? Look up David Goggins, okay? He's a freaking beast, all right? He's probably the most well-conditioned athlete on the planet. Was 320 pounds, goes, I'm going to be a SEAL. Made it. He now holds the world record for pull-ups, 4,200 in a row. Not 42, 4,200. He lives here. I've seen him running down my street. Look him up. You may not. Most people let their brains tell them what to do, right? Flight. Who's ever heard of status quo? So there's something we all have, it's a bias, and the status quo bias states that any deviation from where we are currently will be perceived as a risk. And the reason people don't take risks is because there's too much to lose. Losing something hurts more than winning something feels good. That's why most people don't change. And when they determine whether or not they're going to take a risk, jump out of a plane, go whatever, they look at what do I have to lose, not what do I have to gain. This hits home to me, and it's kind of ironic that Tony's here because there's Tony over there, my buddy. Last time Tony and I were together, it was my birthday here in Vegas, March 25th. And we were at dinner, and after dinner, I get a call from my dad, and he's crying. You know my dad, he don't cry. Like 2004 when the Red Sox won, he cried. And he goes, Stevie, you gotta get down here. I'm like, what? He goes, you gotta get on the next flight. I'm like, oh shit, what's wrong? He goes, Mom's in ICU. I go, what? He goes, yeah, we don't know what you gotta get here. So all my friends were out for my birthday, next flight out. So I get down there, and it turns out my mom's mitral valve exploded. 1% chance of survival. She lived. And the unique thing that I learned, and what the doctor said, he's like, Steve, if your mom wasn't working out every day, my mom's exercised for like, as long as I've been a kid, every day she exercises and works out. If she didn't do that, dead. All those years of working out, being healthy, 20 minutes a day, saved her life. So they did a study of people like my mom who survived heart surgery. And they said to them, did you listen to the doctor's advice of eating right, staying healthy, working out after bypass? Did you listen to what the doctor told you to do? What percentage did? What should the number be? That's the number. 90% of people say, Dr. Schmochter, where's the bacon? Even death doesn't, they don't even want to change and they might die. That's how hard it is to change. Everybody follow. Even after everything they went through, they still don't change. So, does anyone know Ed Milet? Travis, you guys know Ed? Some of you. So Ed's a pretty famous guy in the financial world, and Ed told this story on Tom Bilyeu's podcast. And if you want to follow a good podcast, not this dickhead Joe Rogan, sorry. You want to follow a real podcast, follow Tom Bilyeu. Okay, Tom Bilyeu's the guy that started Quest Bar. Okay, sold it for $1 billion. Genuine dude, super friendly. Met him at a Success Live event. So he has this podcast or show called Impact Theory. And he has amazing people on there. Mel Robbins, Simon Sinek, all these amazing people. So we had Milet on there. And Milet's telling this story. He says, I went to the doctor, I was kind of feeling funny. And he got his EKG back and the doctor said, Ed, I've never seen an EKG look like this in a 40-year-old male. And he goes, is that bad? And the doctor said, you got any kids? He said, yeah, I got a 5-year-old daughter and I got a little boy on the way. He said, you have any interest in walking your daughter down the aisle when she gets married? He said, yeah, of course. He said, you don't stop doing what you're doing? There's going to be some other dude walking her down the aisle and going home with your wife. To this day, Ed has not missed a workout. What did that doctor do differently than every other doctor on the planet when delivering medical advice? What did he or she do differently? Made it real. Not fit. Get him motivated. What else? Value, good. What are you going to say about it?
Demanded change.
Demanded change. How do most doctors deliver medical advice? Dry, clinically, and so on. I gave this talk to a group in Houston, and this woman came up at the end. I didn't get a chance to meet her before. She came up and she said, hey Steve, I'm Dr. Marcy. I'm like, oh shit. She goes, I just want to tell you that you just changed the way I'm going to deliver medical advice. Best compliment I ever got. I didn't do anything. All I did was tell a story. And this is not the topic, but can you see how powerful stories can be for people? Not, here's why you should buy my training. Stories. And it hit home to me because of what happened with my mom. And here's what that doctor did and what we need to do in sales. And what it's called is revealing the true cost of inaction. See, most people sell by saying, here's why you need to do this. Here's why you should go with us. Here's why our company's great. Here's why you should use this service. No. It's the reverse. You have to let people know what's going to happen if they don't go with you. That is what causes people to change. It's not the good that happens. It's the bad if they don't go with you. That's what more people are concerned about. Not the gains. It's the losses they're worried about. It's all caused by status quo. And there's something else unique that has to do with this topic called the endowment effect. And the endowment effect states that when we become in possession of something, it becomes worth more to us because it's ours. Do we need to go back and show you the hoarder's room? You get what I'm saying? Grandma, the coffee can's trash. No, it's not. It's worth $1,000. Remember Seinfeld? You collect TV guides. People think that what they have is worth money. Go to a yard sale. You'll find out. How'd that get up there? Someone goes into Rick's shop and they go, hey Rick, I got this Ming Dynasty remote. It's the only one I've ever seen. I want to sell it. And Rick goes, okay, how much you want for it? Guy goes, 50 grand. Does Rick just peel off the 50 G's and give him the money? Who does he call in? An expert. Funny. An expert on what? Ming Dynasty remotes. Some dude with a weird hat and a handlebar mustache comes in. The only one, he sees the remote, he goes, wow, that is a great piece. I've never seen anything like that. That's probably worth 7, 8 grand. You get a really nice piece. Rick shakes his hand, thanks for coming in, goes back to the seller, goes, okay, so how much would you really take for it? What does the guy say? 50. What does he say? You don't say that. 49 grand? No, but You just heard it's worth 7 or 8. I'll give you 4. Guy goes, all right, how about 30? Facts do not matter to people. Do we even need to go into this? Why didn't that guy get it? This. When we possess something, we overvalue it. Ask anybody that's trying to sell a house. Realtor comes over, hey Steve, we did the comps, your house is worth 600 grand. We should list it at 600. What does he say? No, mine's 750. I got a lime tree. You see that? Did you get that in the comps? We overvalue what we have. So what's the lesson here? If any of you are selling to a prospect that already has what you sell, that is what you're up against. You cannot win on price and any of that other crap. This is what makes it hard to sell to incumbents. Financial advisors, insurance people, CPA, lawyer, we already have one. The guy could be the worst person. My cousin Vinny could be the worst person ever. Nope, I love him. Could have caused the guy $1 million in a loss in a business or a lawsuit. You're up against that. Why? Because what they have is worth more to them. So how do we overcome that? Another study they did for you gamblers, they took a group of people and they said, if we flip this coin and it lands on heads, I'll give you $100. So you win 100 if it's on heads. If it hits tails, you lose 100. So either win 100, lose 100. What percentage of that survey said yes, flip the coin? A lot or a little?
A little. A lot.
Almost none. Why almost none?
They don't lose $100.
Correct?
I have 100. Why would I?
Correct. What is that called, guys? Status quo bias. Why would I do that? Even though it's 50-50. The loss of 100 is so much more painful than the gain of 100, even though it's not, but in their brain it is. So then they said, okay, we'll up the stakes, 150. It's 150 if it lands on heads, it's 100 if it's tails. How many more people said flip it?
25%.
Almost none. Then they went to 200. So they finally got 2 to 1. $200 for heads, 100 for tails. How many said flip it? Almost none. They kept going until the majority of people said flip the damn coin. I'm in. And it was 260. At 260, the majority of those people said that is worth the what? Risk of loss. I gave this talk in Chicago, and this guy in the back, he's going like this. Oh my God. I go, Andy, what's up? He goes, I finally get it, bro. I'm like, what? Share. They lost a deal with Ford. They work with big Fortune 500 companies, and they were going to save Ford $10 million in one of their plants in Michigan. What's $10 million to Ford? A nickel? He got it. That wasn't worth it for them. Does everybody follow? There has to be massive amounts of value to get people to change. Not, we'll save you 30% on your dry cleaning. No, it's got to be 2.6 times. That is what gets people to change. Not 1-to-1, not 50% savings. It's got to be big. And if it's not this, by the way, guys, some studies put this at 4 to 1. This last topic is called switching costs. And so this is what people think about before they change. And all of y'all have thought this in your head. How much time is this going to take? And how much money is this going to cost me? If we aren't addressing these issues during the sale, what happens? People don't buy. Raise your hand if you've ever said you were going to change a vendor in your business. Okay? How about a doctor or a dentist? Okay. How about a cell phone provider or a bank? How about a payroll company? Maybe an employee? What about this one? How much time and how much what? Has this happened before? Am I lying? No, this is what people think. If you don't address it, you lose. What percentage of salespeople address this stuff? Hardly any. Why? Because we're featuring and benefiting to death. What'd you say? See, that's true. That's the other comment. I didn't want to say that, but it's true. I know people like that. Yeah, we know people like that. This is people's life, guys. This is people's life partner. Like, they don't want to change because they're worried they can't find somebody else. I swear to you, this is what happens. How much time and money is it going to take to find somebody? This is sales, but nobody addresses this. So these are the Costanzas, by the way, in the flesh, literally in Del Boca Vista. So 1989, Christmas, I'm 12. I get a remote control car. You guys know those radio control cars? So I get it, I'm outside, it's icy, it's 20 degrees, but I still want to play with it. So I'm out there going up down the street, my dad comes out, and I'm trying not to be a jerk. I really wasn't, but I was trying to drive close to him and kind of annoy him. But anyway, I drove right into his ankle, like 40 miles an hour. Really, yeah, bad. So he yells, screams, looks down, smashes my car to pieces. So I start crying, of course, go inside, tell my mom. I will never, ever forget the look on my mom's face. So my dad comes in, and his name's Steve as well, and she goes, "That's it. If you don't stop drinking tonight, you will never see us again. Try me." So my dad had two options. What were they? Stop drinking or lose his family. Do some dads make the wrong decision? Lucky for me, my dad made the right decision. He's 31 years sober, has not had a drink since that day. So my dad goes to something every week down in Del Boca Vista. What is it? AA. Every week. Not when he feels like it, every week. What happens if he doesn't go? What could happen? Relapse. AA is known for something that's also an A. Personal what? Accountability. What's the Achilles heel of literally every salesperson? Accountability. When they go on vacation, what does my dad find? AA meeting. Doesn't miss one. This is how we have to grow as salespeople. We can't miss things. You say you're going to make 50 calls that week, and you do, and the next week you don't do it, what happens?
Somebody else does.
Are you ever going to do it? Nope. Same thing with working out. I'm going to the gym 5 days this week. 1 week you go for 5 days. And what happens the next week when you only go for 2? What does that lead to? It's daily accountability, like we talked about earlier. Daily accountability, just like my dad has. If he has, when he feels like it, accountability, what do you think would happen? That's what salespeople are missing. So, a couple things as we wrap up. If you want to change your results, you have got to change your daily activities. You know, we talked about KPIs. Everybody talks about KPI. No, DPIs. You change your daily activities, you'll change your results. How long does it take to form a habit?
21 days.
Anyone know?
21 days.
No, sir.
90 days.
That's the myth. 66 days. 66. How long are diets? And how well do those work? 66 days. You want to change your habit? Do something for 66 days. Are bad habits hard to break? What's the answer? Yes. Are good habits hard to break? Yes. We're working on the wrong ones. What would happen if you just created a bunch of good habits? Guess what? They're hard to break. Next one. You want to maximize your potential in sales or business? You've got to understand sales DNA. You've got to understand what's in your head that's holding you back. If you never address it, it can't be corrected. I hate to tell you this, and I'm sorry if I'm breaking the news to you. The next magic script or weekend event, you go and walk on some fire and dance around on some chairs, it ain't gonna help. Sorry. Sorry. Who gets rich from weekend events? Yeah, the host, not you. Test me on this if you want. We have any dentists in here? You don't need to be a dentist for this. How many times a day are you supposed to brush your teeth? Twice a day. For how many minutes? 2 minutes. Okay, we all know this. If anybody wants to take this bet with me, I'll do it. I don't want you to brush your teeth for a year. And on May 23rd, I just want you to brush them for 8 hours straight. And then I want you to go to the dentist and tell me what they say. You want to learn sales? You don't do it in a one weekend event for 8 hours or some course. Every day you have to be practicing. I don't care what it is. Learn guitar. Who's a guitar player in here? Can I just, one day for 8 hours and then I can play Stairway to Heaven? Is that how it works, Bob? Okay, well, maybe. Can I play Crazy Train in 8 hours? You can't rush it. Personal growth isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. Every day, just a little bit. But nobody does that. Why? Because everybody wants to get rich quick. They all want the microwave results. They want to pay $5,000 and go sing Kumbaya with people and think they're rich. Well, guess what? You still wake up in the same bed on Monday, but there's $5,000 missing from your credit card. It's consistency. And here's a third one. Start revealing the true cost of inaction. Not what they get if they buy your service or product. What do they lose if they don't? You've got to share with them the cost of not changing is worse. So I didn't really know what to do here. I told you guys, who was I telling before? One of the gentlemen in the back. Like, I don't have a pitch. I can't stand this shit. I don't like selling from stage. It's awful. I don't have anything to sell you. But if you want help with anything at all, your sales, your business, anything you want to talk about, that's me. So if you want to take a picture of that, that's just the link to my schedule. You want to talk, great. You don't, great. But it's important for me to share with you guys. If we continue to help people and help them get better and help them understand that sales isn't about just selling something to everybody that you can sell to, we'll be all better off, right? As a business world, as a world itself. And I'll tell you this last story. I was doing a podcast and this woman started the podcast and she said, you remind me of my husband. I'm like, all right, is this gonna be bad or good? I don't know. She goes, like, you guys are so good at sales. Like, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. You heard that before? So I didn't remember that she told me this, And so at the end of my training, I kind of made a little faux pas. And I told the story, and I said, hey guys, who's ever heard that phrase, he or she's so good they could sell ice to an Eskimo? Who's heard this before? And I said, selling ice to an Eskimo doesn't make you a great salesperson. It makes you an asshole. So that's my time, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
All right, are there any questions for Steve?
A question away. Anytime. Now's your chance.
Steve, we appreciate you coming out.
Thanks,
That
man.
was very entertaining.
Thanks.
Definitely some great takeaways.
Thanks, bud.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was some food for thought. And
I appreciate
we'll
it, man.
definitely be visiting your website. We want to again thank everybody for coming out. Thank Countrywide for sponsoring tonight.
Thanks, guys.
We do this once a month.
Country Financial.
Oh, what did I say?
Country What?
Country Financial. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
Come on, man.
Country Financial, thank you guys. And the thing is, we do this once a month. It's put it on your calendar, the third Thursday of every month. We bring in different speakers, and again, stay around, continue to introduce yourselves to people that you haven't met before, and we thank you for coming out. We look forward to seeing you.